Okay, so thought I would show you, if I can get it to show up in the camera here, my method for doing a 3-hole tub and shower faucet. Pre-handle, I should say. So here's the faucet. You got 3 handles. You got your hot, you got your cold. That's out to the shower. That's out to the tub spout. So almost all of these are 8 inches on center, meaning from the center of the one on the left to the center of the one on the right is 8 inches. So we're going to hold this up and find out that this one's just a little bit off. It's this one over here that seems to be off, so we'll remeasure it. You always measure this thing about 60 times, so you drill once, because if you drill this too far off, you're buying a new tub and shower. So I always start mine up a foot off of the flange right there. Then I come down 6 inches for the tub spout, or the tub fill, or whatever you want to call it. Now I'm sure in some jurisdictions they're going to have totally different codes and totally different rules, but that's how I do it. So we'll take this measuring tape back out. Yep, sure enough, I'm off. You see that? I'm off by a little, so I'm going to set the camera down, remark it, and drill it, and I'll bring you back. But this is how I drew it up. I find center with a plumb bob, mark it, draw through center with a level, draw up and down, mark it at 6 inches, mark it at 4 inches, mark it at 4 inches. So that's how I do that. So I'll be right back with you as soon as I remark this. Okay, so as you can see, I've drilled my 3 holes. I always drill a little larger because you have the flanges, so you're always going to have a little bit of give. Set the faucet up there, and yes, this is backwards, but you notice how they all go right through. So now I'll show you. Obviously, if you're doing a single handle faucet, the hole has to be much bigger. I'm going to try to set this down so I get it in the picture. I hope that's good because I can't see where it is. Okay. And if none of you have ever seen this hole saw kit, the name escapes me at the moment. Let's see if I can get this. Okay. Anyway, that button right there, you push, the hole saw slides down the drill bit shaft, or shank, and it releases your core of your hole saw. So now we're drilled. So now we're going to go to the back side and we're going to get this plumbed in. So I'll shut it down and get set up on the back side and bring you back. Okay, so wanted to show you this one in keeping with my theme of showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the tub faucet for our guest bathroom that I'm installing. And I wasn't thinking yesterday when I got everything mounted nice and tight, I don't have room to make the PEX connection from here to here. So I'm going to have to take my straps loose. Fortunately, I strapped it on the bottom here. I try to get enough room to wiggle this up and down. I'm using Apex, expansion PEX, whatever you care to call it. Again, different codes, different places. Some jurisdictions might not like it. Some might insist on it. I prefer it because I don't like the metal rings. Have had them corrode in the past and break. The expansion rings, I've never had that happen. So hence why I'm trying to do this. So it's impossible for me in this tight area to set this camera up so you can see it. So I'll take everything loose and get it set up, and then I'll bring you back and show you what I'm going to try to do. Okay, folks. Going to try to show you how to set up a pressure tank for a well. This is another one of those things that can be done differently depending on where in the country you are. This is by no means the only correct way. It's just how I like to do it. So I've got a 44-gallon pressure tank here. We do a lot of watering of cattle and gardens in the summer. The bigger the pressure tank, the less strain you have on the well or on the well pump. However, you have to have a well that will supply this amount of water. As an example, my well here is nothing short of a miracle for this area of Wyoming. It's 20 gallons a minute with no drawdown at 200 feet. So I can pretty much pump however much I want to pump. My neighbor a mile down the road has a well that's 300 feet deep and produces 2.5 gallons a minute. Her pump has to be run on a timer in order to not burn the pump out because they are water cooled. So I wanted to show you how I set up. So this piece here, this is referred to as a tank T. And it comes with all the fittings you should need in order to set up your pressure tank. This is where your well pump gets turned on and off. That right there is a pressure switch. This particular pressure switch is set at 60 pounds off, 40 pounds on. Meaning when it drops to 40 PSI, it'll pump until it reaches 60 PSI and shut down. They make them, the common ones are 20-40, 30-50, 40-60. Again, depends on your own personal well. Then you have the pressure gauge. A 0 to 100 gauge is usually enough. This is a 0 to 200 gauge because I happen to have it brand new in a box that had come in a box of stuff I'd bought. So you have these two fittings out front here. They can be used for drains. I have another pressure tank in the barn. I've got one set up as a drain, one set up as an air fitting to blow the lines out in winter. I don't need to use either one of these because I have that one down there and I'll never be blowing this out because the house is higher than the barn. So if I need to drain the whole system, I will drain it from down there. So it doesn't matter which side you're in and which side you're out. So you've got, in this case, this is going to be my out and this is going to be my in over here. So I won't be able to do all of this today because when I went to town last night, I forgot to get some 1-inch PEX. So, you know, there's so many different kinds of water line out there, from galvanized, CPVC, PVC, PEX, copper, and there's the old Quest water line. There's all kinds out there. I prefer PEX, but I prefer the expansion ring PEX. For those of you who've never heard of it, I'll show it to you in a minute. The expansion rings are made out of plastic, and they don't corrode, so they don't break. The metal rings on the crimp PEX, I've seen corrode and break. So the other thing I wanted to show you is you'll notice right here, there's some black ABS tubing, and that's 1-inch PEX sticking out the top of it. Because this goes under the concrete, if it were to ever fail, to avoid having to chisel up all my concrete, I sleeve all my water lines coming in. So if this were ever fail, I can dig it up outside, pull it out from under the concrete, and then put a new pipe in, and I don't have to fight with it. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put in what's called a male adapter. Now, the difference between crimp and expansion ring PEX is this ridged fitting right here. This ridge is an expansion or apex fitting. Could be known by either name. Again, I prefer these. I have the tool. It does take a special tool, but these little guys won't corrode. So just like my air compressor video, I put a little pipe dope on my threads. I thread them in here. Now, you may notice that it's 1 inch coming in and 3/4 coming out. I'm 300 feet from my well, and then my well's another 200 feet down. So I'm 500 feet away from my water source. So I want to have as large a pipe as I can coming in. Then in the house, everything's 3/4, so I can reduce it right here. The other thing you'll notice, and sharpie-eyed, you may have noticed it already, but I have a 3/4 inch and a 1 inch shutoff valve. Reason being, if you put a shutoff valve on this side and turn it off, if you drain the pressure out here, your pump's gonna run with nowhere to put the water because it's shut off into the tank. If you need to remove the tank for any reason, all your water uphill in the house is gonna drain out before you can do it. So you put a shutoff valve on both sides. That way you're covered in either case. So you have a PEX cutter here. It's a plastic tubing cutter. You want to get enough tubing, you can expand it on both sides. You slide these PEX rings over. And then the PEX tool comes with fittings for 1/2, 3/4, and inch. Simply screw the 3/4 on, stick it in there. Slide it on your fitting. Now you notice it's really loose right now. So we give it a couple of minutes here while we're setting up for the valve. And you'll notice that this is going to shrink up and tighten up. See how it doesn't wiggle as easy as it did? So we're going to go ahead . Now because this expands, you have to have enough room for these expanders to get in there or you'll wreck your fitting back here. A lot of times I'll let it go 2 or 3 extra times. I prefer ball valves, 1/4 turn ball valves. It turns your water off, done. I'm gonna turn this one around. And see, look back here, look how that's tightened up already. We'll hold this in here for a minute and see. See, we're already tightening up. You know, you're not supposed to put water to it. Depends on which book you read, for an hour or 2 hours or a day. I'm probably 3 weeks to a month from putting water into this house, so no big deal. But there's my shut off, and then what I'll do from there is take a 90-degree elbow, go back to my wall, go up, and go and feed all my plumbing lines. I'm not gonna strap it or do a lot of this yet because it's not drywalled, and this would be in the way of the drywallers. So when I get the 1-inch pipe, I have everything else. I'll try to shoot another video showing setting up the other end of this, hook it up the whole side. So I just have to get a piece of 1-inch pipe. So with that, I'll sign off on this segment. Thank you. Okay, folks. So what you're staring at here is the air conditioning plenum coil for my air conditioner. Furnace sits on top of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook up the drain. All air conditioners produce moisture. Now, the drier your environment around it, the less moisture it produces. So anyway, anybody who's watched any of my other videos knows by now I love pipe dope. Nothing wrong with Teflon tape. I prefer pipe dope. You want to use Teflon tape? Fine. So anyway, that's a threaded 3/4 inch 90. You put it in your lowest fitting. And by lowest, I mean the one that is closest to the ground. You'll notice there's another hole here. I'm going to have to get a 3/4 inch plug for that. Normally these come with the plug because they know you only need one, but this one didn't. So we're going to come right around here to the edge, and you notice that that's a 1/2 inch 90. My apologies. 3/4 inch 90. There we go. You don't need much to make this turn right here. So what we're going to do, one nice thing about plastic is you can kind of do measuring or guesstimates and get away with it most of the time. It's not like doing machine work. So anyway, that's how long it needs to be. So this is a ratcheting cutter. Notice it clicks as you squeeze it. That cuts it off clean, and you don't have to worry about, you know, shavings on the inside or anything. So with all PVC, use some primer to wipe the end to clean it, and then bear with me a minute here, my lid is stuck on my glue. There we go. Well, I just glued my fingers because it stuck to my wrench. Anyway, sometimes if it's a big enough fitting, I'll glue inside the fitting and outside. This one is a 3/4 inch, don't need to. So I've done that. Primer it, get a 90 ready. Now in this case, it's going to be easier to put the glue in the 90 because we're so close to the body of that air conditioning coil box. And you slide it in. Okay, so now the other thing you got to have when you have one of these is a trap. My supplier in town has been out of traps since I started this project. So we're going to make a trap. And to make a trap, you need a short piece of tubing, a short piece of PVC, and you need 4 90s. And which happens to be coincidentally how many I have left in the bag. That was not by design, but it works. So anyway, let me see if I can get the camera aimed down here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So, cut yourself off a piece of tubing. That's going to go into the other end of the 90 we just put on. Now we're going to make our trap. So you primer, glue, primer the inside of the fitting, boom. Okay, so now you're going to need 2 more to make your trap. These 2 need to be relatively close to the same. So cut this off, reset your cutter. And again, there's nothing wrong with a hacksaw if that's all you have. I just happen to have the tools. Cut those the same length. Actually, I screwed up because you need a 3rd piece. That doesn't matter how long it is. Okay, so now we're going to primer. This is one of the 2 that's relatively the same length. We're going to glue, slide it in. Primer. Now you notice if you've got the writing on there, the primer takes the stenciling off. Glue. 90. Now we got the one that doesn't matter as much. Primer. Glue. Slide it together. Primer. Glue. Put your 90 back in that way. Primer. Glue. Slide it down. Primer. Glue. Set your 90, and you now have made yourself a trap for your air conditioning unit. I'll show you here on the side, or I'll try to show you. By the way, I'm using clear. That way, if I spill any of this, it doesn't show up and my wife doesn't strangle me. So here's your 90 that we just glued in a minute ago. And there back there, you see the other one that I'd already installed, the pipe going through the wall. So now what we'll do is we'll take, and I won't be able to video this because it's so tight in here, but we're going to take that in and we're going to cut a piece of pipe to go back, and our air conditioning drain will be hooked up other than putting that 3/4 inch plug there. So if you ever have need, now I should mention, you can put these together with a union, which enables you to take them apart later if they need to be cleaned. I thought about it. This one's going to have to be cut apart because it's so close in here. so the union wouldn't do me any good. So eventually I may have to cut this apart and replace these fittings. You know, it cost me a couple bucks to clean this drain out. But that's all there is to that. So that's where we're at, and hopefully you learned something. We'll see you on the next thing we do here in the house.